What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Negler here, Cheesehead TV, along with Billy Schmid from 97.3 The Game. It's the final beer and ball of the 2022-2023 Packers season after the gut-wrenching loss to the Detroit Lions. How you holding up, Bill? A couple days after the game, we've let the dust settle. How you feeling, buddy?
Good question, Nags. Good hearing from you. Good seeing you, brother. We've gotten all that out of the way, right? We've cleaned out the locker. We all got our garbage bags and kind of moved on out. We're having our exit meetings.
This is the Cheesehead TV exit meeting. Very good.
It's the exit meeting. Yes, we got to have a conversation with Coach. See what we got to work on mostly into the offseason.
Yep, definitely.
Get our marching orders before OTAs. We come back April 17th. There's a lot to it, and obviously we'll parse through a large majority of it. I just loved being able to push all the big picture questions further down a week. And man, they accelerated right away on Monday. And obviously the post-game conversations,
especially if you're in the content creation arena, here they were.
My girlfriend was so sweet. She says on Monday morning, I had to get up at like 8 after we got back at like 4 from the post game to go get some new tires put on. And she goes, I kind of feel bad for you because now you have to go you got to go talk about this, right? That is kind of the deal. Yeah. And you know what?
Listen, to do. Yes.
It's so much better than working.
Yes.
But
I mean, I'll never complain.
This is when it finally feels like work, Nags, when you have to just roast your favorite team for the next 7 months.
So the next, X number of weeks and months. Yeah. I'll never forget it. The first week I was at Sports Illustrated in their video group. The Packers suffered some hellacious loss, and I came into the office, and the first person I saw was my boss at SI, and he was like, "Oh, about that game," and I was like, "I don't want to talk about it." And he was like, "It's your job to talk about it." I was like, "Yeah, fair point. Well, just wait till I'm on set, get a microphone in my hand before we start diving into this." But yeah, you're right. It has to be dissected. It has to be parsed. I'm going to start with your kind of wheelhouse, the offensive line, because anybody who's kind of consumed my content since Sunday will know I'm still kind of in shock at how poorly they played up front. Mm-hmm. And I give the Lions credit for the way they attacked the Packers. There's zero doubt in my mind that they had an excellent game plan. But not only were the Packers kind of overmatched, as far as physicality, that was so clear early on, especially early on in the goal line on some of the attempted running plays. But, man, there was no real adjustments other than, Yash isn't getting it done, so we're going to put Zach Tom out there. But outside of that, I didn't see much in the way of, okay, we're going to try and change our approach. We're going to try and change schematically what we're doing. We're going to keep running out there empty and let those tackles stay on an island, which, David, it's fine. But Zach, I think, was still a little overwhelmed. And, it was a shocking reversion to form comparative to what we had seen over the past month or so.
That's the best way to sum it up. They reverted to making some really young mistakes. Man, Josh Myers had a super tough night.
The whole interior was rough. And that's the thing, right? You can see guys out on an island like Yash when they're getting beat, the television shows the replay and what have you. And that's really easy to see. But, man, you go back, and even during the game, but go back and watch it. All three guys along the interior. And Runyon and Jenkins are two of your better players. And they had piss-poor games, along with Josh, who I thought probably had one of his worst games of the year.
Yeah, in Negs, I kind of felt bad because in the moment I tweeted out, I think it was third quarter, after realizing that Tom had been out there for a number of series now, and it had not changed. I was just like, it don't really matter who the Packers put out at right tackle. The Lions are going inside shoulder and running through you, forcing John Runyon to make a decision, come on over and help you.
And blowing up their zone scheme. And that's what I mean when I'm and there was no real earnest adjustment to, okay, now we're going to run some power. We're going to run some counters. We're going to try and trap you. We're going to try and do something to mitigate what you're clearly doing to blow up our zone running game. There was, as far to looking at it, who knows what Aaron's calling the line and all that. But, man, there certainly didn't seem to be a concerted effort to try and counter what the Lions were doing.
Well, and you talked about it. You run power and pull Jenkins over because you know that they're crashing so hard.
They're coming down. Yeah,
you try to split between Runyon and Tom or Yash.
Yep.
That does feel like the perfect example. It also, Nags, felt more and more like what we saw from the play calling throughout the season, where when something didn't work, there was a little bit of frenetic energy, right?
Yes.
We gotta figure out how to get this back.
Yeah.
You're not chasing. You're up.
You're
I
up.
know
you are up. That's
I know
the other
you haven't
thing.
finished drives, but you are up in the game.
Yeah. You're
Take
in control.
a deep breath
Yep.
and play your style. And
Yep.
that's where I really think the Jones fumble was exactly the same feel as it had Nags in Tampa, where I get they had not scored touchdowns.
No, but things
they had
were
driven
working.
all over the land.
They moved the ball exactly. Yep. And look, the Jones fumble is the Jones fumble is a tough one, right? Because he's one of, if not your best player on offense. He is the guy who makes it go. Yet, again, much like in Tampa and a couple other times throughout his career, man, his fumble completely changed the momentum of the game. Completely gifted the Lions a possession, which led to points on the board, closing of the gap, come out in the second half, and away we go. The Jones thing is interesting. The play in question is interesting, and I'm really indebted to Mike Wall for pointing this out on his podcast. He has a video breakdown of it's a basic screen to Jones out there in the flat, and he pointed something out that really kind of encapsulated what I thought kind of the difference between the two teams were. In Tunyon's out there in space against a corner, right? And he outweighs him by a good amount. He's a bigger guy. This should be, hammer meets nail, shove him out the way. But in the video, you can see it on tape. He absorbs the hit. And because of that, the corner is able to, free himself and go and get in on the tackle on Aaron Jones. And because he's there, Jones can't take his left arm and wrap the ball or even move the ball to the other side like you're supposed to when you're going up a left sideline, take it out of, harm's way and put it in your other arm. Well, there's a corner now coming in, and the guy who should have been out of the play is there to make the play. And it's little things like that, but it was the physicality that the Lions brought down in and down out. Look at the play where, they have Swift bottled in two defenders, and he's hit initially almost 6 yards prior to the first down marker, and he
steamrolls through,
plows through Darnell Savage and Rasul Douglas for a first down. And those are just two examples, but they perfectly kind of encapsulates the physicality that the Lions played with that was sorely lacking from the Packers.
Well, in the Swift play in particular, Nags, that's one of the toughest parts, because look at those two dudes. Those are two guys that are on your football team next year. And I know we were talking a lot about this at 4-8. Well, now 8-9. Now you can actually make those conversations a reality for 2023. Those are dudes that are going to be on the team. Yes. So we've had a bunch of questions, and I know that you've answered them, and you talked to me.
Maybe
you have to deal with a little bit of this. We all need to stop with the fucking Sean Payton conversation. All right. Whatever the Jim Harbaugh talk is, I'm done with. That being said.
See, you have a very different audience, because no one at Cheesehead TV is talking about Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh. But is this going on the radio? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I had to shut it down within the first segment on Monday, Sunday night. First segment, first caller. That Sean Payton is out there. I'm like, well, he did go 7-9 in his last 3 years in New Orleans.
With Drew Brees.
He never lost any fucking bad games, big games, right? Never an NFC championship game in his own backyard. When, by the way, they get the ball at the start of overtime. So I've had to dig really deep into all this. but the physicality question is something that that we haven't been able to shake for a number of years.
Yeah, going back McCarthy's days. Yeah, no doubt.
And I
soft
think it's
team, finesse team, all of that.
And I think it's really unfair to put on Matt, because at some point the flavor of the suit is going to come with the groceries that you got, right? Bill Parcells would play with that way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who
are you bringing in?
Right. And all these guys that we're talking about are their big money guys who are lacking some of the physicality. So if that is what they diagnose and scout up is the issue going into next year, well, then A.J. Dillon's going to be a freaking huge portion of the game.
Well,
I still think Aaron Jones is going to be a monster portion of the football team. And
we'll see. A lot of questions there.
A little bit different on those edges.
Yes.
Jones one is huge. It's
a big question. It's a big question. But to the physicality point, it's so funny to me, because for so many years, we were like, oh, we want a little bit more nasty on the defense. And then we got guys like getting personal fouls and making boneheaded mistakes and stupid penalties. It's like, no. Physical between the whistles. I don't need cheap shots post play. Oh, the Quay Walker thing is so disappointing because I think he played really well down the stretch, and now the whole narrative around him all offseason is going to be about him being ejected twice in one season, which I understand. I totally get why it will be the talking point, but the young man played really well the last month of the season, was playing well in that game, but now no one's going to talk about that. I do think they have a player there, though. Yeah, I think they have a player there. Too. You know what I mean?
And I thought, Nags, you've talked to dudes in the locker room and had to ask them super tough questions. I wasn't there, so I don't know how the entire thing transpired, but it kind of sounded like he knew exactly what he wanted to say, got it on out, and said, listen, up again. And that's the most frustrating part. The shot of him walking up the tunnel, you can tell, and he said it, that I don't believe I let myself do that again. So the book's going to be out on him, and I don't think he's a dirty player, right? I don't think he's
Mac either.
Jones.
Not even close.
Grayson Allen.
Not even close.
I think he's very temperamental.
Yes.
But when you're talking about in between the whistle Nags, that's going to be more dangerous because now the book's out that we might be able to get at him just a little bit.
So every team's got an instigator, right? Everybody's got a guy that talks a little bit more than others. Incognito. Gets a little extra tweak in there, here or there at the echo of the whistle, maybe the bottom of a pile. And he will undoubtedly have a target on his back going forward. I'm not talking just next year. This is going to be for the next few years where guys are going to try and get under his skin and try and get him to react. Because, hell, he's been thrown out twice. Who knows how many more times he might pop off, so to speak. And
twice in 17 games.
I mean,
could you imagine what Josh Sitton would have been able to get at under the pile? Because oh my gosh, that's why you loved watching him play, because he always was getting up under somebody's skin.
Or Ross Verba back in the day. Ross Verba would have had all sorts of fun. We talked about the offensive line. The wide receiver thing is going to be interesting this offseason because it's always a narrative in Green Bay because of the offense that they run, because of the quarterback that they have. But obviously that quarterback question has to be answered first, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But wide receiver group, it's so interesting how heading into the season, we all knew what giant question marks there were at the position. You get through the season, very tough to begin, a lot of promise, a lot of production, actually, kind of down the stretch, especially with Christian Watson. You saw him really rise up in this game as well. But it's fascinating to me how they're most likely going to lose Allen Lazard, right? I think, I'm not saying that's 100%, but I think the writing's on the wall, right? Randall Cobb, you have to think that's probably it. Maybe Aaron makes a pitch to bring him back, but I got to think that's it, right? You've got Dobbs, you've got Watson, insane potential there. Toure, who knows? Maybe he develops a little bit. Maybe he gets thrown into the mix. But once again, we're in a spot where they're going to have to make some acquisitions here, whether it is free agency, whether it is through the draft, and I suspect it will be through the draft. But, man, suddenly this wide receiver group is thrown into question again. Even with the amount of kind of draft capital you spent in this past draft, you've got a lot of promise on your hands. But, man, you're going to need some pieces here, like without question.
Well, and I think that's why they were so aggressive in the Claypool deal, because they knew that wasn't a 2022 deal. I think that was a 2023 deal. And that's why they liked Moore. That's why they liked a lot of those cats that at least have a couple of years of control
left
afterwards.
Their deals. Right.
It's a bitch to try to continue to climb your way back to where you were. They're trying to still fight missing on that 4th, 5th, and 7th, and none of Jamon Moore, MVS, or EQ being on the team. They're going to need some veterans of that ilk, though. Like I think they have.
I would suspect so, right? I mean, you would think.
I think
hopefully
they have their one right now at least.
A notch above Sammy Watkins. Can we hope? Can we pray? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Hey,
no
shout
kidding.
Out Sammy.
At least
love Sammy.
At least a little
Thank you
bit
for the contribution, but holy cow! Wow. Yikes.
But what about Robert Woods? Like in the style when he was coming in with LA, right? Yep. That's an understated 2 who in the right offense can be a really formidable option.
And
allow Dobbs to be the possession threat at 3.
Yeah. No, I'm all in on this idea. I think that's I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion because you can never say that with the Green Bay Packers, but it sure feels like that's the route they have to go this offseason, right? But of course, like I said, like how many times have we sat here and gone, oh, they have to do this, and then they don't do it. So who knows?
Well, right. Who knows? And I've already penciled in my target at 15.
Draft talk. Draft talk. All right. All right.
Dude, Michael Mayer, are you kidding? How does that not fit just perfectly
Can I
offense?
ask just as someone who doesn't watch college football or even pay attention to the draft until like probably the combine, can I just ask who is that?
Michael Mayer, number 87 tight end from Notre Dame. He's been
a tight end. Get the fuck out of here, a tight end. At 15?
At
15,
baby.
You're crazy. You're crazy. I don't care if this kid is Superman himself. No way you take a tight end at 15. Are you crazy?
Even better. Travis Kelce light. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, the kid is an absolute man amongst boys. You look at his neck nags. It is the size of AJ Dillon's quad. This man is completely stacked up and has just gotten better in every aspect of the game.
I love it. So our new
already in on the NIL deal. So I love a businessman coming out of
our new draft industrial complex metric, neck size. All right, I'm all
neck
in.
size.
Forget hand size, wingspan, none of that. Neck size. I'm all in. I'll tell you what. Okay, here's the one way that would make sense. The one and only way is if Aaron Rodgers isn't back as your quarterback. And you're going to be a little bit more multiple. You're going to run a lot more kind of power looks, a lot more stuff where you got condensed formations, blah, 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 blah. And you're doing play action, you're doing boot stuff, and you're utilizing the tight end. Aaron doesn't throw the tight end. Like, he threw one to Tunyon, and I was really excited. But traditionally, Aaron doesn't utilize his tight ends the way, like, most teams would or should.
He sure liked throwing to Bobby in the red zone a couple of years ago. That's where the creativity on the offense needs to really get going. And I think that's possession style is where they're at. It's also Nags, and you touched on it right there. I think it's a pick more for the next quarterback.
Yes. Well, it has to be. Here's the thing.
Whatever
happens in this draft has to be about the next QB. Well, you can't keep building around 39, soon to be 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this quarterback situation because here we go. Can they just bribe Rodgers to retire? Like, this is my thing, right? Like, so a number of years ago, Mark Murphy got on a plane to Hattiesburg, Mississippi with an offer in hand of $20 million for Brett Favre to stay retired because he was making all sorts of noise and rumbling about coming back. And of course, we all know how that played out. Favre didn't take the bribe. I'm sorry, the marketing deal. And away we went, right? So what's to stop Mark Murphy? And we've known for yesterday and today, we're recording on Wednesday, that Rodgers and the Packers are having meetings, right? They did this last year. So where you got to think in one of those meetings, Mark Murphy is at least involved and in the conversation, right? What's to stop Mark from saying, Aaron, we really appreciate everything you've done. We feel as an organization that we've taken this as far as we can. We know we committed to you for at least 2 years of this contract that you're under right now, but we really feel it is time to go in another direction. Here's a even $100 million marketing deal over the next 10 years if you'll retire. If you'll just hang them up. Who says no? Probably Rodgers.
Money is energy. All right. It's hard to
there you go.
Hard to walk away from that kind of money. It would be really hard for me to walk away from $100 million to not put my body on the line. I still remember that deal, that the reporting I remember from Ed Warner and everybody was he's flying down in preparation to offer him 10 years at $20 million to stay retired.
Yep.
And sign a couple of autographs for the Salvation Army? Check.
And he brought his locker. Remember that? He brought the locker down to
every single thing that was in your locker. Hey man, we cleaned it out for you.
The physical locker itself. He brought it to Mississippi.
Oh my God, I forgot about that part of it.
Oh my God. So
they ripped it out of that little special training room.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know that Rodgers wants a locker. I mean, he might want like some of the bricks from the tunnel, something good and spiritual, right? Something good, that's sentimental that'll remind you 100%. Of some good vibes.
No doubt.
I think that's the best case scenario for everybody involved. We did this the day before on the 30th. It was your sports wishes for all the different teams. And my wish for the Green Bay Packers was either Aaron or Jordan Love is not on the team in 2023. Either
Oh,
that means that
yeah,
either
I
that
think
means
that's
that Aaron's here and you let Jordan go and play somewhere,
Yep.
and you let that young man's career start, or he's here and it's been a remarkable run. Aaron retires as a Packer, something that was statedly very important to him in the last couple of years, being able to leave on somewhat of his own term. I think he kind of knows that he's leaning that way. I don't believe, Negs, that he needs all that much convincing. I think he's leaning towards hanging it up.
I agree.
And
I agree. And it's just guessing, obviously.
Yeah, it is. I'm 1,000% speculating, but I think he's kind of leaning towards walking away. He's got everything intact. He's also had significant head injuries in his career.
Times, yeah, no doubt.
Couple of times, and this is the age when those guys have walked away.
Yes.
So I believe he is leaning that way. That assurance that money is going to be in his pocket, I don't think hurts.
No,
and that's why you have the war chest, isn't it? That's why you have that $685 million sitting away and waiting.
It's literally what Corey said on our happy hour. I think it was last night. He was like, "Hey, get Titletown to pay for it." I mean, that's why Titletown is there, right?
Name the sledding hill after him.
Like, there you go. There you go. That's your money. You don't have to share it with anybody. Don't have to spread it around the league. That is your money. And if you want to utilize it this way, marketing deal for your Hall of Fame quarterback, bingo. Do it. And look,
I think he would be able to do, Negs, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I think he would actually be able to do some good with the marketing opportunities that you'd go with the next 10 years, right? He wouldn't go and have a welfare conversation. He would go and be able to put that to good, wholesome use. I apologize.
You had to go there. You had to go there. I will say, though, like, look, because I know I'm already getting grief on Twitter about this because of my stance about it's time to move on, blah, blah, blah. Look, you can think it is time to turn the page and still appreciate everything Aaron Rodgers has done as the starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, the MVP awards he's won, bringing a title back to Titletown. I love Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. It's been a phenomenal run. But now 3 years in a row, we have watched him be old and cold in a winner-go-home game in January and come up short each time. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. What is the point of all this? Like, one more year to do what? Watch him get old and cold yet again for a 4th year in a row? Like, to me, it's so obvious that what he was going to do in a Packers uniform has been done. And there is no shame whatsoever in saying, buddy, you're at the end. It's time to give him a little nudge. Because I know Brady's out there at 45 still slinging it around, completely warping every perception at the quarterback position. But much like people counting his titles against everybody else, he is such an outlier. He is so much different than every other person playing this game. Like, you can't compare Aaron to Brady and think, oh, yeah, he can play another 5 years. Aaron's at the end, man. Like, Breeze was at the end. Like, he's still got a little bit more on his fastball than Breeze did at the end. But you can tell all those plays outside the pocket he used to be able to make without problem, without question, they've really dried up, man. Like, he can still look at some of the balls he threw on Sunday night.
Make a few. Yep.
The interception, the interception that got called back is one of the worst throws I've seen him make in a Green Bay Packers uniform. I mean, that's stuff that he wasn't doing even 2-3 years ago, let alone 5-6 years ago. It's Father Time is undefeated, and he is knocking at the door. It is time. Better to get out a year too early than a year too late. Last year was a year too early. Right now is the right time to get out.
And Negs, that's why I'm hesitant that they will, though.
Yes,
because
I know.
Well, here's the thing. Plan.
All of this said, I fully expect him to be back. I fully expect Joe Barry to be back. I fully expect everything to get run back for one more season. That's the thing. That's the thing.
The one change will be, I think Hackett will be the quarterback coach. Ooh. I think that's the only change that I could see genuinely changing.
Oh, Tom Clements retires? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, Tom retires. He's 70 years old. Isn't that their breaking point? Oh, sorry, that's just with the president. They don't age discriminate on other spots. But you sit here with this opportunity, and the opportunity was a couple of years ago. And this is 1,000% different than when Aaron took over for Brett.
Yes.
Because Aaron was still making $50 million on that rookie contract.
Yep.
Jordan Love has made $19 million as the starting or as the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And guess what? He's only going to make like $7 next year.
Yep.
So financially, when they decided to draft him, it made the most sense to go to him after the 2020 season. You got right up to the cusp. You got called out. And frankly, he called your bluff and absolutely owned you for 16 weeks until the fourth quarter of the title game, right?
Yep.
And I get Goody getting cold feet at that point.
Yeah. I never will, but I get it.
Yeah. Then the next year, Nags, 2021 he was right at the diving board, right? He's sitting on the high dive, knows he's not a great swimmer, kind of like me, not a very buoyant cat, right? Gets right up to the diving board and
man,
I'm going to crawl back down the ladder.
Yep.
And now you got to figure out if you want to climb all the way back up the ladder to jump because everybody's watching you now.
Yes.
Everybody at the pool has been waiting to see.
Looking at you.
Are you finally going to, or are you going to walk back on into the clubhouse?
You're finally going to jump off that diving board.
They got so many opportunities to impress everybody and jump off the diving board, and it's a great moment.
Splash.
You're finally right, Nags. You finally conquered your fear. I don't really think they're going to do it, and I think it's going to be one of the tougher moments. So that's why the Mark Murphy part that you've brought up is significant. Because I haven't seen anybody else say the decision is made above. Whereas in other organizations,
he's got to be
in other organizations, the owner makes those decisions.
Right. He's got to be in the conversation. There's zero doubt about that. Like, we'll see how it transpires over the course of the next few weeks. But I will say this, like, it's interesting watching the sentiment around the head coach really turn this year. Matt, did not do his best job early in the season. But I tell you what, and I said this on Daily yesterday, the fact that this team kept it together, never pointed fingers, never lost basically belief in what they were doing is a testament to Matt and the job his staff did to keep them kind of fighting every week in and week out, despite the 5-game losing streak, despite being basically 2% away from elimination or, a month ago. And they come out of the bye week and have the run that they had. I mean, I think that's a testament to Matt as a coach. But that said, he's got a lot of kind of soul-searching, inward-looking stuff to do as far as why it was so disjointed early in the season, why it was so difficult to find a win throughout that 5-game losing streak. And I'm not sitting here saying Matt is flawless, because that is certainly not the truth. But I wish more people would pay attention to the fact that all throughout the league, you can look at teams that pack it in. I mean, you can tell when dudes just there's no effort, guys aren't paying attention, the message is stale. I mean, you look no further than Denver. Look at Nathaniel Hackett. You talk about losing your team. That's a prime example. Never happened in Green Bay. It was so obvious that the guys, whatever their misgivings might have been, schematically or what they were being asked to do, sure, there's going to be some grumblings. I know we had reporting like that kind of through that kind of rough patch of the season. But, man, they stuck together and they found a way out of it. And, again, to me, that's a testament to Matt. And that is something that's not going to get put on a graphic on Twitter or put on SportsCenter and talked about, blah, blah, blah. But it's a very real thing that I think is a bit underappreciated by the fan base.
The other part of it is I agree wholeheartedly with bringing the team still together and having you fight for somewhat of a common goal. Because, Nags, it's also not like they're the young team like the Detroit Lions,
right?
Where, as I've been kind of mocked by a couple of listeners, like the good vibes at the end of the year. Dude, that means something going into next year because that team's pretty much going to be completely brought back. This team's going to be somewhat intact next year, pretty intact.
Yeah.
The thing that Matt has on his plate where I think the criticism comes to is how has he replaced the losses on the coaching staff? And have you looked out of the organization enough to continue bringing in ideas and different schemes? Because this offense, dude, did not look like his offense
at all.
And that's where the conversations this week with Aaron, if Aaron is coming back, then they need to have a lot of conversations like they had in between 19 and 20.
Yes.
Because there's parts of this offense that really do click. The bootleg and the quick motion to Watson. I know we talked about the not really wanting to skate all the way on outside the pocket. Dude, that's electric because you get the ball in his hands on a drag. That's going to be dangerous stuff. So there's elements of it in the way that he's been brought up in the NFL, the scheme that he's kind of been brought up with that makes defenses stress. And it's all across the league. And I think they saw the league kind of all running their same system and wanted to change it up a little bit. Do some different things.
1,000%
yes.
yes.
The Matt LaFleur offense. And you know what? It didn't really work. So now you got to go on back here and reshape it and get back to a little bit more what you normally do. And I think, Negs, Hackett helps with some of that creativity.
He could.
Under center creativity, I should say.
I've said a lot, like, if Justin Outen shakes free in Denver, I'd love to see him back. I think he's a really good young coach, and he did a phenomenal job as a play caller after Hackett got fired in Denver. But I will say this, it's interesting that you talk about that, because you look around the league and you look at the people running this system, and it's fascinating to me to watch, the closest version of this outside of Green Bay, because you've got the Aaron Rodgers influence. So it's always going to be a little different. But you look at McVay and the way his team struggled on offense this year, even before Stafford got hurt, they were not playing well at all. The league is, I'm not going to say caught up, but they're certainly counters now. And defensive coordinators know what you're trying to do. And Matt somewhat alluded to this in his, season wrapping presser, where he talked about, he almost straight up admitted, like, there are trends and things going on around the league. It feels like we've fallen behind. And that's a big admission. And that's absolutely a call to arms for his staff of, all right, we've really got to drill down. And I think not kind of like find out what's next. It's not even that. It's just get a little bit more creative and figure out ways that we can take advantage of what defenses are trying to do, because it's very clear that, the eye candy, some of the stuff that was, allowing you to take advantage of defenses has maybe not dried up, but it's not working as well. It's not as effective as it was, say, like 3 or 4 years ago. That I don't think is, I don't think that's out of line.
I don't think that's no. And I think, Nags, one of the main reasons why it's still working in San Francisco, because Kyle runs a different offense than McVay.
Because they run the ball. They run the ball.
And the crazy
part is, simple. It is that simple. They run the ball.
Yeah, they also have all pros all over the field, right? I mean, they have a first team all pro left tackle. They have a first team all pro running back. They have a first team all pro tight end. First team all pro wide receiver.
We have an all pro left tackle. Just saying.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think when you see the amount that they play within it's somewhat triple option-esque,
right,
out of the shotgun with Purdy. And it's very similar to what he did at Iowa State. I love the way that they've kind of melded those two together. I watch way too much weird Big 12 college football. So I watched a ton of I bet on Brock Purdy a bunch. So I've made some money on that young man, and I appreciate what he's doing.
You degenerate soul.
But I just it works there because they have really freaking good players. Like up and down the board, they have really good talent. Yeah. You have to be able to meld a little bit of what they do and be able to take and pluck some stuff from what Kafka has been able to do up there with Buffalo. Here's the way that Andy Reid and all them moved.
I'm glad you brought this up because, look, the Shanahan thing, right? Yes, they have good players. There's no doubt about it. But they also practice it. They also stress it. You are what you emphasize, right? And I'll never forget Ryan Grant when he came on Watch Party a couple years ago, and he talked about the kind of month he spent with Washington, right? And that's when Shanahan and LaFleur were there. And he said, in Washington, they spent more time on the run game in 1 week, in one practice than the Packers would in an entire week. One practice, they spent more time on the running game than you would in a week in Green Bay. And that was under McCarthy, right? But Aaron Rodgers is still here, and Aaron Rodgers is running the offense. Everything is predicated around Aaron Rodgers. Everything. So what do you think they're working on in practice? They're not working on the running game. They may obviously they do work on it, but nowhere near as much as they're working on spread stuff, the bootleg stuff, the stuff to get Aaron throwing the football. That's what's being emphasized. And I get it. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. But that's why Kyle's teams run the ball so well and so effectively. Yes, they've got good players, but they emphasize it. They work on it. That is the emphasis. That's why you can drop down to Brock Purdy and make it work, because it's not about we've got to spread it out and make the quarterback win. It's we're running the fucking ball regardless.
Now, I would wonder if that would change if he has somebody of that talent level. Right, like if he even the Stafford talent level, right? Because you definitely saw McVay want to air it out way more, and who wouldn't want to get the ball to freaking Cooper Kupp? Everybody does. So you're going to want to be able to stretch the ball. You're going to want to throw. But if Kyle gets somebody like that, Does he morph a little bit, and does he give up some control? It's a dude again,
maybe
right? But Nags, it's a relationship business, and sometimes the relationships get real close, and then you do have to pull back and have some strange, uncomfortable power dynamic kind of moves where it doesn't make everybody feel insecure as to where their standing is. But
yes,
there's some real tough conversations that have to be had in that building. And frankly, Nags, I'm really lucky that I'm not having them, because they are going to get real contentious at some point.
Well,
at some
maybe they
point
will,
or another,
maybe not,
because these guys really all want to win and actually do care about each other and care about what they're actually doing.
That's true. That's very true. Much like I care about you and talking with you about football each and every week, as we have done here each and every week this season on Beer and Ball. This is the last Beer and Ball for the 2022-2023 season. I will continue to talk with Billy throughout the offseason, though. And I through a little bird, I heard you're going to be at the Combine in Indianapolis. Is that true?
Indianapolis is going to be able to see me, St. Elmo's. I can't afford it, so I'm just going to hang on out outside.
Come on, iHeart's got you on that. You got to have a per diem.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm getting the black card on the trip on out.
We're gonna no. We'll talk to the powers that be. We'll hook you up. That's good.
No, dude, I'm fired up, man. I'm really excited for you to show me the ropes down there, and I can't thank you enough, man. This has been. I know we've talked about it more off the air. This has been some of the most fun I've had talking ball and talking real X's and O's, dude. So I really appreciate you doing this with me each week.
Oh, man, I greatly appreciate you coming on each week, having these conversations. They help me. It's like therapy. It really is therapy. But
we needed some this week, huh?
Yeah, no doubt about it. But yes, Beer and Ball, that'll wrap it up for this season. Hopefully we're back next year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We got a lot of talks to have with iHeart. But regardless, Billy, you are the absolute man. Thank you so much. And like I said, I will definitely be speaking with you throughout the offseason on other kind of channels, endeavors, what have you. But this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much, man.
We got a lot of carrying the G to do, man. Appreciate it as always.
Absolutely. Go Pack, go.